Good morning, councillors, and welcome to the City Planning, Environment and Economic Development Committee meeting of the 16th of May 2023. I declare the meeting open at 9 a.m. and I'd like to begin by acknowledging the traditional owners of the land on which we meet and their elders past, present and emerging. I have received a leave of absence from Councillor Bradley at a previous City Governance Committee meeting, so she will not be present for the meeting. I have no other leaves of absence for this meeting, noting that Councillor Karansky is using Teams to access the meeting because she is unwell, so give her a big wave. Do any councillors have any conflicts of interest they'd like to declare on any items on the agenda today? There being none, we'll get stuck straight into GB for Michael Asnikar, the Manager of Health, Environment and Waste. Michael, do you have any GB for us?
No, I don't.
Good man. Councillors, do you have any GB for Michael? Oh, Councillor Murphy.
Thank you. I just wanted to say a big thank you to the team from Cleanaway. We sent you some photos yesterday. They participated in the Beanley Cane Festival with the truck, and they did a little bit of a display as they were going around as well, so to promote our waste services within the City of Logan. So can you just pass on congratulations to them, please, Michael? Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Murphy. Any further GB for the Manager? No? Excellent. Back to work with you, mate. Thank you. Councillors, we'll now move into item 5.1, which is MCUI 45-2022, proposed material change of use for a childcare centre at 83 to 87 Butel Street in Waterford West. For those of you playing at home, that is in the greatest division in the city, Division 5, as declared by the Chair, so it must be a known fact. I'll hand over to Justin to speak to the report, and then I'll have my job.
Through the Chair, officers are recommending approval of a proposed childcare centre at 83 to 87 Butel Street, Waterford West. The subject site situated within the small lot precinct of the low density residential zone where a childcare centre is impact accessible. The site area is 4,409 square metres and the site is currently improved by a single storey house. The proposed childcare centre intends to have a gross floor area of 727 square metres, site cover of 24.7%. Proposals is for 76 children places. The site will accommodate 28 car parking spaces and they will be accessed via the northwest corner of the site on Logan Reserve Road there. As part of this application, the applicant is dedicating land to council, 1,295 square metres of it, for future road upgrades on Logan Reserve Road and Butel Street. As the application was impact accessible, underwent public notification for 15 business days. During that period, council received 12 objections. 2 of those were not properly made. The key issues raised by the community were traffic, road safety, lack of need, impact on emergency services and hooning. Officers are recommending approval of the application because a local need has been demonstrated. This has been demonstrated through an economic report by the applicant that officers have had peer reviewed. The childcare centre land use is a contemplated land use in the small lot precinct provided that local need can be met and demonstrated. And it's been determined that there is no significant impact on the transport network. This has been supported through a traffic impact assessment that's been reviewed by officers. There is sufficient capacity in the Logan Reserve Road and Butel Street to accommodate the additional vehicle trips associated with the childcare centre and to accommodate those safely. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Justin. Councillors, do you have any questions for Justin? Councillor Lane.
Thanks very much through you, Mr. Chair. So, Justin, 4133 has a deficit of childcare centres and childcare places, is that correct? According to council?
Through the Chair, 4133 being this postcode?
Yeah.
This postcode?
The postcode where the development is proposed to go into.
So, through the Chair, the catchment area extends beyond just this postcode of Waterford West. The catchment area extends all the way up to, it follows the river. It is contained by the river. the Logan motorway, the railway line, and then shifts further south into Logan Reserve. So that catchment area is around 15,000 people. And the catchment area is made up of, or is determined by a number of factors, but typically population and geography. There are a number of centres in that catchment area, about 11 centres. The applicants came in with an 87-place childcare centre that was originally lodged. Their economic report demonstrated a need for that. Officers had that peer reviewed. Our economic expert advised that there is a need, but for 76 child places in this catchment. The applicant subsequently revised that number down to 76. Council officers' view is that there is a 76 childcare space deficit in that catchment area.
Thank you, Councillor Lane. I've got Councillor Murphy, Councillor Wilcox, Mayor Power.
Thank you, through the chair. I've also noted that the application has gone from 87 child space to 76 child space. Once this development is built, and reading through the report, it says that the need can increase over time. Can they come back to us at any stage and increase those numbers at all? So I think this said in the report that it goes through to 2027, that those figures are. But after that fact, can they come back to council to increase those numbers? And does that affect the gross floor space at all?
Through the chair, they can come back and apply for increased numbers, and we would assess it on its merits at that time, taking into account, as we do now, any approved and not yet built childcare centres in that period, but also all the other existing childcare centres that are operating. So yes, they technically can apply to increase, and we would undertake another economic assessment at that time.
So, Justin, is there a set rule for the amount of floor space per child within development applications? Like, I would suggest that they're not going to put another room on, but is there like a limit to how many children and workers per square metre, or that fact?
Through the chair, it's not governed by the planning scheme, it's governed by the state government. When the childcare centre receives a licence, there are minimum requirements for carers, childcare workers, and also floor area. I don't have that exact number to hand, but it's not something that we govern under the planning scheme.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Murphy. Councillor Wilcox.
Thank you very much. Just wondering, so on the 21st of September, council officers advised the applicant that the peer review said that there was no need for a proposed childcare. What changed between the 21st of September and the 24th of November, when on the 24th of November it was confirmed through peer review again that there was a need for the 87 spaces, but would not manifest until 2027. So we've gone from no need in 2029 until 2029, and then to November 2022, that yes, there is a need.
Through the chair, I'd suggest that comes down to language rather than saying that there is a need for a specific number. We've simply gone back and said there is no need at all. I can't comment on the language and the chronology, but my knowledge of the application is that we went back and said that our peer reviewer has found a need for 76 six numbers. So that potentially could just be an error in the chronology, Councillor.
Doesn't seem like there's an error, because it says the 21st of September there was no need until 2029, and then the 24th of November it says yes, there's a need for 87 spaces, but possibly not till 2027. It's a bit all over the shop for me. It's on page 6, page 3 of the report. And then on the 23rd of November, there was 10 properly made submissions objecting to the proposal. So I'm interested as to those as well.
Through the chair, if I can refer to the chronology on page 3. So it talks about you're right, Council, on the 21st of September. Office advised the applicant that the peer review of the childcare needs assessment had been if there was no need for the proposed childcare centre, and it has in brackets there with 87 child spaces. As my colleague was saying, since that time the applicant revised down the number of child spaces as part of the proposal, and then our peer review was able to identify that it was now a childcare centre of sufficient size that met the need rather than was above what was needed in the area.
So the 10 is the 10 objections come because when there's a development application in my area, I post on social media and then people will ask me, can you help me do a submission? So for Riverglen, I went and gave them a whole bunch of pro formas that they fill in, and then I pick them up and deliver them back to council to make sure that the voice of the people is heard by the officers. Any further questions, Councillor Wilcox? I have Mayor Power, Councillor Bannon, and if there's nobody else, I'll wrap up.
Yep, I just have the one question. I know we set the development conditions, but in regards to the numbers, who's going to regulate that once it officially opens? So residents are concerned, obviously, you know, commerciality. Next minute, you know, they've got 90 people there. I'm not saying they're going to do that, but I said it's a possibility. Who's going to regulate that?
Through the chair, that would be regulated through our land use investigation team. Through the chair, that would be regulated through our land use investigation team.
Yep. And does that operate on a complaint-based or just a regular inspection? Because I've known schools not to abide by the development conditions and have had more numbers than they were allowed to. Kimberley College, for instance. So are we going on a regular inspection routine? Because let's face it, the general public don't know how many numbers are stipulated in these institutions. So unless there's someone that actually does an inspection on a regular basis, no one would know that they're doing the wrong thing.
Through the chair, it's based on complaints. It's through the chair, it's based on complaints. So
That's
our
not,
land use investigation.
to me, that would be, I'll get away with it as long as I can until I get caught. I think we need to look at that.
I'll let the Director respond.
Just to clarify, the DA branch investigation team isn't resourced appropriately to be proactively auditing businesses across the city. That's why we respond just to complaints. So if a decision was made by council that you want the branch to move to a positive and proactive footing, not just complaint-based, then that would have a resourcing implication for the team.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm going to put Councillor Fraser before Councillor Bannon. Councillor Fraser.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I was just looking at the flood map then, and the flood map for 1% AEP is just kissing the boundary. Do we need to take that into account? Does it matter really, or have they got some kind of strategy to stop potential flood waters from going onto the property or something like that?
Through the chair, that land will be dedicated to council in the future, so it's not impacting on the usable area of the site. So no precautions have been taken into account or conditioned as a result of that minor flooding.
Thank you, Councillor Fraser. Councillor Bannon.
Thank you, through the chair. It's good everyone's got questions. The first question that always comes to my mind is, it's your division. You know the division better than I ever will. So is this something that you support? If the divisional council supports it, then I don't really get into the questions on it because it is your division. So sorry to put you on the spot, but if you're supporting this, then of course I would support it because it's not my division.
Thank you, Councillor Bannon. That was why I was wrapping up, and that's why I put you second last so I could lead into it. So in the first instance, I want to thank the staff for the work they've done, especially in pushing back against the numbers of places. The community doesn't see there's a need for this whatsoever. There's another childcare centre about 200 metres up the road. There's another childcare centre another 300 metres up the road from that. There's another childcare centre in the opposite direction about 500 metres up the road. And then there's an approval that hasn't been acted on yet on like as the crow flies, about 200 metres away on Kingston Road. So when the community looks and sees all these childcare centres so close to each other, anecdotally they don't see a need. So reducing the numbers reflects that they are on the money there, although they'd like it removed completely. And some of the concerns that I received from residents, particularly in River Glen when I was speaking to them, was around the removal of housing during a housing crisis. So we're in the small lot zone, which is meant to be a residential zone, and we're saying let's put childcare centres in instead of homes. And there is an approval for homes on that site at the moment, but we're going to wipe that out. And instead of having places for people to live in a housing crisis, we're going to have yet another childcare centre. The other concern is around the traffic on Butel Street and the traffic on Logan Reserve Road. And I know the traffic engineers looked at it and said there's only 54 extra trips a day. Nothing to see here, folks. But if you've been to Butel Street in the morning between 7:30 and 8:30, it takes about 30 minutes to get from where this roundabout is through the Kingston Road lights because of how much traffic banks up there. I came that way this morning just to have a look at how bad it was, and it made me, because I went the other way, it took me about 20 minutes extra to get to work. So it's, when you say it's only 54 trips, that's an extra 54 cars in the queue that have to get through during that peak time. Like, it is the exact same peak time as when everyone else is going in the morning. I completely accept that during the afternoons they stagger out, so it's not the pressure, but that doesn't help people, including Councillor Heremeyer's residents, from trying to get to work. And when it's not during peak hour, the residents are concerned about safety on the roundabout because there's so much traffic on Logan Reserve Road that in the form of heavy vehicles that are involved in the development that's happening in Division 8, but also just people who are doing the wrong thing, who come flying down Logan Reserve Road towards Logan Reserve, and it's an 80 zone after this roundabout. So they hit that roundabout at pace. They often lose control. We nearly had a pedestrian hit by a car that came a cropper over the footpath, and that's happening any time of day other than peak, when you can't move there because of a car park. Now, I know that there is land take for a road in the future, and if I could have gone back to my residents and said, don't worry, there's going to be a childcare centre, but council's going to get the land and upgrade the intersection sooner, isn't that an amazing win? But I can't say that because that intersection upgrade is still 18 years away. So the good people in River Glen who are currently worried about the safety of that roundabout will have to walk around there with their dogs, will have to drive through that roundabout for another 18 years. Some of them in their 70s will probably never see that roundabout get upgraded, but I'm going to ask them to put up with 54 extra trips a day, plus all of the interactions that will happen around that driveway. That's a really hard pill to swallow. So I can't support this development application, but I completely understand that I don't have strong planning grounds for saying no to it. But my community needs someone to stand up for them, and I'm going to be that someone today. So councillors, you can do what you want to do, but I have to vote with the will of my community. There's about 300 residents in River Glen who will be impacted by this. There would have been more submissions, but they didn't get them in time. I had about 50 come in just after the close date, and I know the guys would have accepted it, but they had enough to bring it to committee. So I'll be voting against this one, but that doesn't mean that the officers have done a bad job. Like, they've done what they need to, and I understand why they're recommending approval. I just can't support that. Yes, Councillor Bennett.
So if it gets voted shot down, we go to the court over it and lose?
Through the chair, if it isn't supported, then the applicant has the right to appeal the decision. I can't comment on the prospects of an appeal, but I can say that officers have planning grounds to support the application.
So the answer with that.
Through the chair, if I could just refer councillors to page 32 of their agendas, you'll note that in working with the city solicitor, we've changed some of the framing in which we articulate the answers to the questions that you have, Councillor Bannon. So we've described, based on our experience, and as I said, in working with the city solicitor, what it looks like depending upon which way these things go, because there could be a submitter appeal. So even if this council decides to approve it, one of the submitters could appeal the decision, and we've put in some estimates in there. And equally, if council decides to refuse the application, we've put some indicative figures, because as you would know, we've had a couple of childcare centres go to appeal, so we can put a bit of shape around some of those those numbers. But what I would say is, specifically in relation to 7.5 a year agenda, we've specifically made a reference that if you did want to drop in and start talking about prospects, we should move into confidential to have that conversation. I do note that the city solicitor is on Teams and would participate in that conversation. So wouldn't like to talk too much about prospects in case this council goes a different way with the decision.
Thank you, Stephen. I've got Councillor Kransky and then Councillor Hall.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I was happy to move forward once you'd spoken, but as Councillor Bannon raised that question, I just feel I'd like to speak. I'll be voting with the area councillor today. I won't be supporting this application. At the end of the day, we're elected to represent the residents, and this is an impact assessable application, which means it doesn't comply with the existing planning scheme. And I respect that the applicant has made modifications to their application to try and make this fit. But at the end of the day, I think Councillor Raven put it best when he said that the impact on that roundabout and the impact on adjacent residents is going to be significant. And of course, we haven't got this factored into our road upgrades anytime soon. The traffic gridlock is horrendous down there. I attest to that. I travel through it every day when I come in to the office. And it's actually, I believe, out of step with the development that we have approved for the area. So I appreciate that it's not on a service station site. That's great news for me, but I'll be voting with the area councillor today.
Thank you, Councillor Kransky. Councillor Hall.
Look, I think it's pretty obvious that you can go against this, but it's most likely that council would lose, in my opinion, a court battle about this. And you know what? Burning money up in the courts isn't acting for your residents. It's not doing much for the residents at all. So I think it's a better option that we take the council officers' advice here, because they are the authority of this, and they know what's going to happen. And I think they've looked into the mirror ball, and they can see that we're most likely going to burn up 200,000 fighting this and being in a losing battle. And I don't think that's acting for your residents. I think we should actually stick to what the officers' advice is, because they're the best ones to say what's most likely going to happen. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Hall. Mayor Power.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. I think we all know where this is going. I think we have a bit of an understanding of the procedures in the Land Environment Court and the chances of this actually being overturned is practically nil. Councillors, and I think Councillor Hall's got it right, we have an onus to the other, 359,000 people that live in the city to represent them as well. And obviously paying higher rates is not looking after them. We know that it is an absolute suicide quest to actually go against this because of the planning. The Planning Act is State Government Act. We must abide by it. I know we want to address this in our planning scheme, and we will, but it's not there yet. So we have to abide by the rules. Many times we've been in this situation where we don't agree with the process, and we've had to agree with things getting up. But in the long run, it's about making a pragmatic decision in saving the ratepayer money and looking after everyone else. We might be able to stall it for a few more months, but in the end it'll happen anyway. So I would like to move the motion that we approve it begrudgingly, but I think it's the best thing we do on behalf of all the other Logan ratepayers. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I will accept that you're moving the motion, but first I just need someone to move that the PowerPoint presentation be tabled. Are you happy to move that as well? That has been moved by Mr. Mayor. All in favour, please raise your hands. This is for the PowerPoint presentation to be tabled. That is carried unanimously, including Councillor Kransky on Teams. We'll now put the... Oh, sorry. One question. Yes, Councillor Stemp.
Sorry, Mr. Chair. If we vote against this, do we have to have a planning reason for voting against it?
Yes, you'll have to have a planning reason if you succeed in voting against it. I don't have one of those ready. I can make one up, but I don't have one of those ready. Yeah, we'd defer it. We'd defer it till council to word that up properly. Alrighty, councillors, we will have a motion on the screen. The Mayor has moved. Would someone like to second the motion to approve MCUI 45/2022? Thank you, Councillor Lane. All those in favour, please raise your hand. That has been carried with the exception of myself. I'm against. Councillor Wilcox.
Against.
And Councillor Karansky.
Against, sorry.
Thank you very much, councillors. We'll now move on to item 5.2, which is the investigation into subdivision of secondary dwellings and auxiliary units. This is a GB item that's come back as a report. I'll let Dave Radich come to the table. Oh, wait, sorry. Does anyone have any GB for Stephen? Thanks, Stephen. He was giving me the eye. Stephen doesn't have any GB for us. I see him retreating rapidly. Thank you, gentlemen. Off to work with you. Dave, great report, and I'll take the report as read unless you've got any further comments you want to add to it. Thank you. Councillor Heremiah, do you have any questions on this one? Happy to move. Would someone like to second the motion? Thank you, Councillor Murphy. All those in favour, please raise your hand. That has been carried with the exception of Councillor Lane. How do you vote?
Against.
No dramas. Thank you. So that report has been received. Councillors, do you have any general business for David Radich as the Manager of Economic Development and City Planning? No? Dave, do you have any for us?
No, I do not.
Excellent. I do have a general business item from Councillor Karansky in relation to her position as Chair of City Lifestyle so that she can attend via Teams tomorrow. Councillor Karansky, would you like to speak to that now?
Absolutely. Thank you for your indulgence, Mr. Chair. During GB today, I was keen to raise the fact that I'll be unable to attend tomorrow's City Lifestyle Committee meeting due to the fact that I'm ill, which creates a quandary. If I am on Teams, then the onus falls on me as the chair to chair the meeting, which I believe is a difficult set of circumstances for all of the councillors and the office staff. And the alternative is for me to be absent from the meeting, which I think puts my community at a disadvantage. So I sought further advice, and I wish to advise that at the ordinary council meeting on the 26th of April 2023, I was elected as Deputy Mayor, and at that time I indicated my intention to step down as the Chair of the City Lifestyle Committee. Today I wish to formally step down with immediate effect and will advise the Mayor and the CEO in writing later today. As a result, Councillor Hall, as the current Deputy Chair, has agreed to chair tomorrow's meeting of the City Lifestyle Committee. It's my understanding that the process for appointment of the new Chair and Deputy Chair will take place when Ordinary Council meets next week on Wednesday, the 24th of May. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Karansky. Appreciate you organising that ahead of time. Councillors, does anyone have any general business for the Director? Dave, do you have any general business for us? Oh, we were so close, under half an hour, Councillor Lane. Yes, Councillor Lane, please.
I was really trying to keep my thing on this, but there is a development in our local community, Dave, that is actually causing a bit of havoc in the local streets. And I actually pushed off another email this morning about it. We have big trucks coming into back streets doing 5 and 7 point turns on corners. They're tearing down signs, they're breaking splitter islands, and this development has been nothing but trouble from the moment that it started. And I would hope that you would be able to come back to me in the next day or two with an answer to the traffic issues that we're having. 21 minutes to get out of a street this morning because trucks were building it up. It's raining, there are no workers on site today, but we still have semi-trailers coming through suburban streets, very tight suburban streets, and damaging signs, driving up on verges, breaking curbs, snapping trees, and it's just not okay. So I was actually just going to try and get through it and not say a word, but I can't. It's just it's driving me nuts, it's driving neighbours nuts, and it's really got to stop. Do we have any powers when it comes to changing the traffic conditions applied to a development?
I'll let the Director respond.
Thanks for raising it. You should always feel entitled and free to raise those things. Saw your email today. The team's on it, made it a priority. I don't know who's doing what on site at this point, but so it always is that balance between unlawful traffic operation, which would ordinarily fall within the domain of the QPS, versus what is the servicing arrangements for this development, and that if that is the case, that they're not servicing the development in the way that it's been approved, then we can absolutely take action.
So the reason why I'm probably filthy, and so are the neighbours, is we didn't get any notice that the street was getting cut off. We didn't get any notice that the semis were coming through. Then when we did insist on notice to know when it was going to stop, we were all sent a flyer that said that works would begin on the 8th of April and conclude 2 weeks later. We're way past that. And that was only delivered last Friday. So these people just don't seem to really care. The footpaths were ripped off. We have people with disabilities who were impacted by that. There was no notice given to the community. Are we required under the planning rules for developers to actually notify the community of what's happening and what's coming up? Because this has just been unacceptable from the moment they broke ground. They've caused nothing but havoc in that local area.
I absolutely hear you, Councillor Lane. Just give me and the team a moment to catch up and address the email that you've sent, and we'll come straight back to you over the next day.
Thank you, Councillor Lane. Any further GB councillors? There being none, I declare the meeting closed at 9:31. We nearly made it before 30 minutes. Thank you, Councillor Lane. The City Infrastructure Committee will begin in 10 minutes at 9:41. Thank you.